the last episode, we toured around the town of Churchill. Don't just think that's it. The surrounding area of Churchill is equally fascinating with even more stories than the town itself. However, due to the fact that you might encounter polar bears anywhere in this part of the world, I joined the owner of the hotel I'm staying at, who also happened to be a well-known professional guide in Churchill, for a quick drive around. Before we hit the true wilderness, we already saw one type of wildlife I have never seen somewhere else in the world: a silver fox wandering in the streets of Churchill. Once you're outside of the town of Churchill, you're out in the wild. It is a harsh place that feels like you can lose your life to the Mother Nature at any moment. When you look at the Hudson Bay, you don't get the same feelings as when you're looking at the bays in California or in the Caribbean. Instead of tourists, hotels, or fancy homes, here in Churchill, you see things like Miss Piggy. Yeah, that's the name of a crashed plane. One day in 1979, the plane crashed shortly after taking off from Churchill. The true reason why Miss Piggy crashed is still a mystery today. Some say it was engine failure. Some blame it on the poor weather. We simply don't know. It's too late to find out anyways. One thing we know is that the crews survived this crash. The legend says that the search and rescue team couldn't find the crews at the scene of the wreck. However, they did find them drinking at a bar in Churchill. Guess what? Miss Piggy wasn't even the only victim that fell to the harsh environment near Churchill. Out there in the bay, you'll find the wreck of SS Ithaca. This ship had at least 6 other names before it was officially named Ithaca in 1960. And surprisingly, it became a wreck the first time it sailed as SS Ithaca. How it became a wreck is still a mystery today. One thing we knew was that the insurance company figured something was fishy about this 40-year-old cargo ship, so they refused to pay the claim. I know we've talked about this for quite some episodes now, but how easy it is to encounter a polar bear in Churchill? Back in 2013, this is what I filmed with my $100 camera I bought from Costco at the place near the wreck of Miss Piggy. Churchill and the surrounding area has around 2,000 polar bears, which is more than twice the population of the town itself. To protect the residents as well as keeping the polar bears wild, people of Churchill have discovered ways that help to maintain this balance. First, the town created an indoor garbage dump, so polar bears will continue to hunt seals on ice rather than consuming our household garbage. The second measure is rather a controversial one. It also happens to be one of the Churchill area's landmarks, the Polar Bear Holding Facility, or some people say, the Polar Bear Jail. It was used for holding polar bears who had close human contact. Remember the one that visited your backyard and ate the leftover barbecue salmon from the garbage can? It will be sent here for around 1 month and released by helicopter to somewhere that's far away from the town of Churchill. And you know what? Even this wasn't perfect in the beginning. The conservationists used to feed food to one of the polar bears. When they released the bear, they didn't expect to see it again. Sometime later, the same polar bear traveled over 500 kilometers and broke into the facility looking for food. Nowadays, they only get water while in confinement. And yes, this facility has a full climate control system, so polar bears can stay there comfortably regardless of the season. You might also find these around Churchill. Polar bear traps. They are placed near the town to prevent polar bears walking directly into the residential area. Because seals are polar bears' favorite food, normally the trap contains a cloth soaked with seal oil to lure polar bears to walk into the trap. Then they will be transported to the nearby Wapask National Park. Before Churchill became a hotspot for ecotourism, it was once the site of a joint American-Canadian military base. You can still find some traces of the military base in Churchill today. You can still visit the old rocket launching site, and you can even find an abandoned radar station that was used to detect potential Soviet nuclear missile attacks. I can assure you that if I showed up with what I was wearing when the military base was still in function, I would have been immediately placed under arrest for interrogation. At the end of the only road in Churchill, you reach the Churchill Northern Studies Center. It is a research station for scientists to study northern climate and, most notably, Aurora Borealis. The institute streams the sky in Churchill live on YouTube. I'll leave the link in the description box below. Maybe you'll see some real-time northern lights without the need to suffer the brutal environment of Churchill. Like mentioned in the previous episodes, Churchill and the surrounding area is home to a large amount of murals done by international artists. You've already seen some of them earlier. The one that impressed me the most was the one painted on the side of Churchill's old radio station. It depicted a line of port workers balancing on the Hudson Bay Railway, implying that if the railway is broken, which it did in recent years, the people of Churchill would fall. The port worker in the front is actually based on a real-life worker who still lives in the town today. On the other side of the building, you'll find the mural of a polar bear. And you know what? It was done in 6 hours with some leftover paint from the local home hardware. The final stop is actually somewhere I had visited multiple times during my last visit in 2013, Cape Mary. Indeed, it looks peaceful and beautiful. But beware, this is polar bear country. I actually saw one in the area in 2013. And the local man at the bar called me f***ing idiot for going there on my own by bicycle. From Cape Mary, you'll see one of Churchill area's oldest architecture, Prince of Wales Fort. Originally built in the early 1700s, the fort actually saw a military conflict between Britain and France in this far corner of the world. Believe it or not, this fort had changed hands twice in history. From Britain to France, and following the defeat of the French, back to Britain again. It's just a stunning place. Parks Canada actually offers a walking tour from their office at the train station. Go with the tour. Don't be like an idiot. Don't be like Sayu Rinpoche. Back to the town. because the wind wasn't as strong as the day before. So I ventured back into the shore of Hudson Bay. Okay, now so I'm back at the Inukshuk. Wow, yeah, seeing Hudson Bay with ice on it, it was just otherworldly. There's no word to describe this. This is fantastic. So far, I really enjoyed my experience in Churchill. I enjoyed Churchill in summer back then, and I definitely like it even in winter or fall here. Yeah, so I think this is the place that if you come to Canada, you have to visit. This will make your Canadian experience complete. Doesn't matter summer or fall, July or November, come to Churchill. I did notice while in Cape Mary that the ice on the sea began to break up. I just sat on the bench and spent some time alone, watching the current pushing the ice back to the shore. It was quite something. Something that I had never seen before. Something that I never imagined I would enjoy so much that I forgot I was in polar bear country. Wow, it was just a spectacular scenery. This is awesome. This is definitely the experience of a lifetime. Hang on, what about the polar bears? Isn't Churchill the polar bear capital of the world? Didn't I make this special trip to see the polar bears? You're not wrong. I was also wondering why I still had not seen a single polar bear during the supposedly peak polar bear season. I heard that once the sea ice is formed, all the polar bears on land would all jump onto the ice cap and start their feasting season on seals. Now the ice cap is broken apart. The sea ice has been pushed to the shore. The ideal seal hunting ground no longer exists. And that means one thing: the polar bears are back.